Are you ready to turn the solid London system into a deadly weapon? In this video, we'll uncover the most powerful chess traps for white in the London. Traps guaranteed to shock your opponents and win games fast. Whether you're a beginner learning openings or a seasoned player searching for sneaky tricks, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the traps every chess player must know. We begin with pawn to d4, and black answers with pawn to d5. We bring our bishop to f4, they respond with knight to f6. We play pawn to e3. Black strikes with pawn to c5. We secure our pyramid, pawn to c3. Black quietly plays pawn to e6. Our knight develops to f3, their knight steps to c6. We bring our other knight to d2, and black places bishop to d6. We calmly retreat bishop to g3, black castles kingside. We bring bishop to d3, their queen slides to e7. Our knight marches forward to e5. Black challenges with knight to d7. We capture. Knight takes knight. Black retakes with bishop. Our bishop captures their bishop, and the black queen recaptures. Now we push. Pawn takes on c5. The black queen snatches the pawn, and the trap is set. We sacrifice. Bishop to h7. Check. The king is dragged out to capture. Our queen storms to h5. Check. The king flees to g8. Our knight leaps to e4. The pawn cannot touch it, for their queen would fall. Black shuffles queen to e7. We continue. Knight to g5. Their rook shifts to e8, but it is too late. We strike. Queen to h7. Check. The king slides to f8. And finally, queen to h8. Checkmate. Over 600 players have already fallen for this London system trap. Our next trap is not just a trick, it's a masterpiece of deception. We play pawn to d4, pawn to d5, bishop to f4, black develops knight to f6. We play pawn to e3, black strikes with pawn to c5. We steady with pawn to c3, their knight jumps to c6, our knight moves to d2, black supports with pawn to e6. We develop knight to f3, their bishop comes to d6. We calmly retreat bishop to g3. Black castles kingside. We bring our bishop to d3, its eyes fixed on the pawn at h7. Black plays pawn to b6, forming a pawn chain. Now we strike, pawn to e4. The trap is set. Black takes the bait, capturing with pawn to e4. We respond, knight takes pawn. Their knight captures back, and we recapture with our bishop, threatening their knight. They defend with bishop to b7. But this bishop is already under pressure. We push pawn to c5, forcing their bishop to capture. Now queen slides to a4, attacking the knight. Black panics, retreating queen to c8, a mistake. We sacrifice, bishop to h7, check. The king is forced to capture. Our queen storms to h4, check. The king flees to g8, our knight leaps to g5, threatening devastation. Black scrambles with rook to d8, but we press on. Queen to h7, check. The king staggers to f8. Again, queen to h8, check. The king runs to e7. Now we capture on g7 with our queen, striking at their defenses. Black shields with rook to f8. And we calmly castle long, our king safe, our advantage crushing. A storm from the London system, and we stand with a winning position. Over 7,000 players have already fallen into this very trap. We begin again. Pawn to d4. Bishop to f4. They respond with pawn to e6. We play knight to f3. Black strikes with pawn to c5. We build our pawn chain, pawn to e3. Their knight jumps to c6, and we bring our knight to c3, already threatening to leap forward. Black carelessly pushes pawn to d5, and now the trap is sprung. Our knight jumps to b5. The weakness on c7 is exposed, and we already hold a winning advantage. From quiet beginnings, the London system claims yet another victim. The next trap starts calm and solid, but suddenly explodes into chaos. Pawn to d4, pawn to d5, bishop to f4. They develop knight to f6. We place our knight on f3. Black counters with pawn to c5. We strengthen with pawn to e3. Their knight jumps to c6. We develop our knight to d2. Black tries to pin with bishop to g4. We calmly play pawn to c3, fortifying the center. Black continues with pawn to e6. And now we strike. Queen to a4. Black blunders with bishop to d6. And here comes the hammer. Bishop to a6. Boom! The knight on c6 is pinned, the position collapsing. If black dares to capture, we respond with bishop takes b7, and the threats rain down. They castle in desperation, but we crash through with bishop takes c6. Their bishop recaptures. We answer pawn takes on c5, bishop to c5, and finally bishop captures on a8. A rook gone, a position shattered, and we stand with a crushing advantage. This is the power of the London system trap. 700 players have already fallen for our next London system trap. We begin with pawn to d4, bishop to f4. They play pawn to g6. We continue with pawn to e3. Their bishop fianchettos to g7. We develop knight to f3. They strike the center with pawn to d6. We place our knight on d2. Black castles kingside. We push pawn to h3, securing our bishop. Their knight develops to d7. We bring bishop to c4, and here it comes. Black makes the blunder, rook to e8. Over 700 people have played this move. Now the trap is sprung. We sacrifice. Bishop takes on f7, check. The king is forced to capture. Our knight leaps to g5 with check. The king runs to g8, and now comes the hammer. Knight to e6. The black queen is trapped. This is the hidden venom inside the London system. From a quiet London opening comes a trap that has crushed countless opponents in just 12 moves. Pawn to d4, pawn to d5. We develop knight to f3. They bring out knight to f6. We place our bishop on f4. Black pushes pawn to c5. We build with pawn to e3. Their knight jumps to c6. Our knight develops to d2, and they bring bishop to f5. Now comes the tension. We capture pawn to c5, they answer with pawn to e6. We strike boldly, knight to d4, attacking both bishop and knight. Black retreats bishop to g6, but we push harder, bishop to b5. Their rook slides to c8, and we explode, knight takes knight. When their pawn recaptures, we land bishop to a6, pinning the rook. Black tries to save it with rook to a8, but bishop to b7 comes crashing down. The rook slides to b8, and we simply take it. Bishop captures rook on b8, and the game is already lost for black. A rook ahead, a dominating position, and all of it from the London system. Finally, let us witness a deadly trap that ends the game in just 14 moves. We start with pawn to d4. Black replies with pawn to d5. Our knight develops to f3. Their knight comes to f6. We bring our bishop to f4. They answer with pawn to e6. We quietly play pawn to e3, and black lines up bishop to d6. We shift bishop to g3. They castle kingside. Now bishop to d3. They strike with pawn to c5. We steady with pawn to c3. Their knight leaps to c6. We place knight on d2, and here comes rook to e8. Now the fireworks begin. We jump knight to e5. They defend with queen to c7. We push pawn to f4, tightening the grip. Black slides knight to d7, but it's already too late. We sacrifice bishop on h7, check. The king is forced to take. Now queen to h5, another check. The king flees to g8, and then the hammer falls. Queen captures on f7, driving the king to he7, and finally, queen to e8. Checkmate is unstoppable, and the rook falls with it. From quiet beginnings to a ruthless finish. This is the London system at its deadliest. If you enjoyed these crushing London system traps, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful opening tricks, strategies, and epic games. Drop a comment below. What's your favorite London system trap? And don't forget to check out my other videos on deadly chess openings. Together, we'll keep sharpening your skills and catching opponents off guard.